name is Anthony Penderis, the author of The Carpet Mind, a book in which I address the mechanics of our thinking processes. I reason that similar to the laws of nature which explain all natural phenomena in our observable universe, there must be principles that guide our thinking processes too. I define 10 such principles which I named the fundamentals of the thinking process. At this stage, I see the value of my fundamentals to be helpful in demystifying the thinking process, solve many mental problems, and have certain applications in the field of psychology with cognitive behavioral therapy. In this video, I will only give a short explanation of each fundamental of the thinking process without defending it. Should you be interested to find out more, please visit me at anthonypenderis.com, where you can order my book and download a free poster of my 10 fundamentals of the thinking process. The first fundamental has to do with our memory storage process. When we experience something, we always assess it with one or more of our 5 traditional senses, which are hearing, seeing, smelling, feeling, and tasting. In turn, these senses elicit associations of their own, which implies that we build a network of associations around everything we remember. We therefore do not simply store facts in our minds, but rather our experiences of them. I summed it up with my first fundamental of the thinking process as follows. All memories are stored with multiple tags of association. So how do we recall past events? We all have a multitude of memories stored in our minds, but what makes us think of certain things? It is clear that external sensory input through our 5 traditional senses, such as seeing, hearing, and so on, has a definitive effect on what we think about. But there is also internal sensory input, such as bodily pains, low blood pressure, and nausea, for instance, which could elicit certain memories. On top of this, there is the more subtle influence of hormonal control, which can direct our thinking, such as hypothyroidism and premenstrual syndrome. All in all, it appears then that we need a sensory cue either from an external or internal source to extract memory. My second fundamental of the thinking process defines this observation. Memory can only be retrieved through association with sensory cues. What sustains the thinking process, or how is the conscious mind kept alive? While we are awake, we know that we cannot stop thinking. It is a continuous process. We do not think in freeze frames, neither is there a cul-de-sac to thinking. In the waking state, we are continuously bombarded with sensory input from internal and external sources, which keep the thinking process rolling forward. One thought always leads to another, which implies that all memory is locked in sequence. It appears then that when there is no sensory input, there can be no mind. This brings me to my third fundamental of the thinking process. The thinking process is sustained by sensory input and remains continuous in the waking state. How is it possible to do something without actually thinking about it? We are all born with instinctive abilities, which are part of our defense mechanism. You will automatically jerk your hand away from a hot object or blink when something approaches your face fast. But I can also drive a car without actually thinking about it. It appears that our bodies have the spontaneous ability to relegate oft-repeated actions to the same level as instinctive reactions. This enables the mind to focus on other things while we execute such actions. My fourth fundamental of the thinking process sums up this characteristic. The body spontaneously unburdens the conscious mind from continuous involvement in oft-repeated acquired skills. Many of us claim to have excellent memories, but how well do we really remember things? I came to the conclusion that it is necessary for us to forget things slowly. From an evolutionary point of view, this makes perfect sense. If we were to remember everything we ever experienced as vividly as the first time we were exposed to it, our main occupation in life would have been to regurgitate facts of the past. This would have made us sluggish and unwilling to learn new things. Remembering very bad news such as the death of a loved one with the same intensity as the day we received it would have made life hell. This brings me to my fifth fundamental of the thinking process. Memory recall of past events increasingly distorts with the lapse of time. Is it possible to think of many things simultaneously? The answer is no. Even if you are good at multitasking and occupy yourself with many things at the same time, you can only think of one thing at any particular moment. Our ability to flick our attention quickly between different points of focus creates the illusion that we think of them all simultaneously. This observation led to my sixth fundamental of the thinking process. The conscious mind can only be engaged in a single point of focus at any given time. During the course of our lives, we are bombarded with sensory input, but our minds only remember certain details of the events we are part of. How does the mind then select what to remember? It is clear that we need a system to protect our minds from memory overload. I therefore came to the conclusion that you first need to think of something before you remember it. My seventh fundamental of the thinking process is therefore the following. The experience of an event can only be committed to memory after conscious experience of such an event. Why do we use our bodies as well to convey the meaning of our thoughts? In other words, why is there such a thing as body language? Before the advent of speech, our main mode of communication must have been through our bodies. This is still evident in lower order mammals, insects, and birds, for instance, which can go through elaborate physical displays, even changing colors in the bodies to convey their intentions or thoughts, if you will. As humans, we can sometimes judge the thoughts of people by just watching their body language. There seems then to be an irrevocable link still present between our thoughts and the way it plays out through our bodies. I summarize this phenomenon as my eighth fundamental of the thinking process. The body continuously manifests the emotional value assigned to thought content. How do we judge the value of things? When do we decide that an ensuing event or experience will either be good or bad for us? In other words, will the outcome of the event either be punishment or reward? Take the experience of pain, for instance. When we are born, we are hardwired for pain, but we have no memory of pain. Throughout our lives, then, we apply sensory evaluation, effectively using the body as conduit to judge things. I came to the conclusion, then, that the mind is dependent on the body to qualitatively judge things, summed up in my ninth fundamental of the thinking process. Qualitative judgment of an experience is based on the body's sensory evaluation of such an experience. Do we possess a free will? This question must be as old as humanity itself. When Shakespeare wrote, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players," he was conceding that the script of life is already written, and we are just playing it out. The philosopher Spinoza flatly declared that there is no such thing as free will. There is growing evidence from the world of neuroscience that our bodies make decisions by themselves, and we only become aware of it afterwards. This concept is defined as readiness potential, which indicates the time lag between our decisions measured by brain scans and our conscious awareness of it. But I have an easy way out of this. If you accept my first three fundamentals of the thinking process, then it makes it necessarily true that there can be no such thing as free will. My 10th fundamental of the thinking process is defined as such. The human mind is devoid of exercising free choice. The Carpet Mind is available in ebook or printed form at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Exclusives, Kalahari, and Loot. Your comments are valued on my blog at anthonypenderis.com, where you can also download a free poster of my fundamentals of the thinking process. Thank you.